The Acolyte showrunner Leslye Headland has cast doubt that the show will be greenlit for a second season. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Hit that like button as well. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. And Leslye Headland said this to Entertainment Weekly. Something that I've noticed is first seasons will end on what should have been the break into Act 2. It feels like everyone's really expecting their shows to get a second season, and I don't feel that's a good idea. I threw everything into season 1 because who knows what's going to happen. So there you have it. Leslye Headland does not know if the show will get greenlit for a second season. So she says she put everything into season 1. Obviously, if you've been watching any of my videos, you've been tuning into the WDW Pros after show streams. You know that the show is absolutely terrible. Everything in it is pretty awful. There might be one or two lines that I find actually stay true to Star Wars and George Lucas's vision, but everything else has been absolutely trash. And it's not just me. We'll get to this and show some of the metrics that show that this show is not performing well at all. But despite Headland saying that she's unsure if the show will get renewed for a second season, she did inform Entertainment Weekly that she has, quote, 4 or 5 major mysteries she'd like to explore if it does. If it's been any of the mysteries that they've tried to like breadcrumb us with, then they aren't really mysteries, right? We knew who the Sith was. We knew it was going to be Chimere. We knew it was going to be, as a lot of people are saying, Asian Ezra Miller, Manny Jacinto. We knew immediately who killed the Jedi. Like they showed us that they solved that mystery in the same episode. So I doubt that these are actually real mysteries, major mysteries. There are no major mysteries in this show. I guess there's like one, and it's like who killed the lesbian space witches, and that's like the only real mystery in the show. There aren't any others. But as I said, we were going to get some of these metrics. You can see here, audience score 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. Absolutely atrocious. That is the lowest of any Star Wars film or television show. This is reflected on IMDb as well. It has a 3.3 out of 10 rating. However, if you look at the unweighted rating here, it says here 2.9, and you can see that the majority of all reviews are 1 out of 10. It sits at 58.2%, 42,000 of all reviews or 42,000 of the reviews are 1 out of 10. I think there's how many total reviews here do we have? I don't know if I must have cut that off on the screenshot. I think it's probably, obviously it's like 42,000, 58%. So it's probably around like 79 or something like that. Maybe around 80 or it's probably like 84 maybe. I don't know. I'm terrible at math right now off the top of my head. Someone will tell me. Not only do we see these audience scores and user reviews just in the dumpster, absolutely terrible, but the viewership is piss poor as well. The Walt Disney Company officially revealed that the show's first 2 episodes only garnered 11.1 million global views after the first 5 days of streaming on Disney Plus. If you did some calculations, which I did do, I know I just talked about how my math was terrible on the fly, but when I'm not on the fly, I can actually do math. So that actually comes out to around 820 million minutes viewed if you take Walt Disney's calculation of a view as total stream time divided by runtime. And if so, I did that, and it comes out to 820 million minutes viewed. That's actually 9 million minutes less than Ahsoka's minutes watched metric, as reported by Nielsen for its first 2 episodes that debuted last year. And then the big kicker, though, is that Nielsen only tracks in the United States. That means Ahsoka's U.S. viewership was bigger than the Acolyte's entire global viewership. Like, that's just how poorly this show is performing. In fact, we have analytics firm Illuminate kind of confirming this. They revealed, as reported by Variety, that the show's first 2 episodes only brought in 210 million minutes watched in the United States. That's 619 million minutes less than Ahsoka. That is how terribly this show is performing. It did see a bump in its second episode, or its third episode in its second week. It jumped up to 380.5 million minutes watched. However, that's still far below Ahsoka's 487 million minutes watched in its third week. The week its third episode debuted. So obviously second week, third episode again, because they did a 2-episode premiere. So it did have a bump, but that's obviously when people were kind of talking about the lesbian space witches and all of this nonsense that was going to be introduced, which indeed it was, the change in the force, where they described it as the thread now. So all of that stuff was confirmed. So you saw a pretty big bump there for that episode. But the last data point we have from Illuminate, third week, fourth episode, it actually has declined back to 262 million minutes watched. Now, obviously, that's still more than the premiere, but that could be people kind of tuning in, watching all of the episodes there, all 4 of the episodes in one go, just kind of catching up to see how absolutely atrocious it was going to be. Again, the fourth episode was supposed to have the pronoun stuff, and indeed it did. So people might have been tuning in to see that as well. We'll really see kind of what happens when we get the information for the 5th episode and the 4th week and moving on, and see if it'll actually be able to sustain this audience. But even if it does sustain the audience, it is still way less than Ahsoka. It's way less than Andor. It's way less than pretty much all of the previous Star Wars shows before. This show is not performing well. It is the worst performing, I think at this point, Disney Plus Star Wars show that we have seen, at a point where Disney Plus has the most subscribers it has ever seen. So that just kind of shows you how poorly this show is performing. And then one last point here. It not only did Headland, I think, cast doubt on the fact that the show might not get a second season, but she's already lining up some projects here. She has at least one lined up. Deadline reported this earlier this week. They said she's going to be making her Broadway debut with second stage theater production for her play Cult of Love. That play is going to be directed by Trip Coleman, and it is expected to begin performances at the end of November at the Hayes Theater. So I'm not sure exactly what kind of workload that entails, being the writer and you have someone else already kind of doing the direction and stuff, but it does indicate she probably will likely be busy with that towards the end of the year. And who knows what other things she has working on. Obviously, it does look like she does have some things moving forward outside of Star Wars. Now, that doesn't say she can't do Star Wars as well, but I think it would probably make the schedule a little bit difficult if they do indeed go with a second season. But it's hard to imagine that they would if they were actually thinking rationally on a return on investment profit motive. Because I think it's very clear that it's likely people aren't actually subscribing to Disney Plus for this show. The viewership does not appear to be there. People do not like it. They might actually be losing subscriptions because the show is so terrible and they're not interested in this stuff anymore. So there's no way that they would greenlight it for that reason, at least based on the data that we have in front of us now. The only reason why they would greenlight something like this is to continue to push the agenda, which we know the Walt Disney Company is all about. It's all about pushing their social agendas, all kinds of different social agendas. They push racism, they push disgusting transgender ideology, they push disordered sexual behaviors onto minors. They do all kinds of disgusting, evil things. They've got men dressing up as women in their parks, trying to greet young children and kind of basically normalize that type of behavior. And they're employing people like that. They pay for absolutely disgusting procedures that snuff out human life. Just an absolute degenerate company that promotes all kinds of disgusting evils. So I can see them greenlighting this show in order to continue pushing the evil propaganda that they are doing in the show. Obviously, feminism, and clearly, I think, trying to normalize a lot of this evil stuff, because they are kind of showing the Sith as these like sympathetic people. It's just absolutely disgusting what Leslye Headland, Lucasfilm, and the Walt Disney Company are doing here. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.